Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming on and watching, and we're going to give you a quick update on the campaign. First and foremost, thank you to everybody who attended the volunteer session with Hunter from my team today. We had a big volunteer get out the vote session. For those who are wondering, you saw that the governor passed universal mail-in access, but you got to still, yeah, is someone applauding out there? I heard applaud on this thing.
Oh, that was me, Nate.
Hey, Mary, how are you? We're going to talk to Mary and Hunter in a second, but you need to still apply if you can't go to the polls. You can't just, we're not going to mail you a ballot. You got to apply for a ballot, but anybody can apply for a ballot. Um, how do you do that? Most sites, I think it's county by county, right? County by county, they're going to set up a portal online where you can apply for a ballot. However, if you are healthy, I strongly encourage you to vote in person. We just went through this. It was difficult to collect the ballots and to the whole process was difficult. There's thousands and thousands of ballots. The Board of Elections do not have the manpower in every single area of NY27 to count those ballots. So we prefer you to vote in person. And you can vote in person 9 days early. That's the law in New York State. So 9 days before November 3rd, which is, what day would that be exactly? We'll do the math here in a second. But 9 days before November 3rd, you can go and vote in person. Please do that if you can, if you're healthy. Wear a mask, wear gloves, do whatever you can. But if you can't, or you have friends and family you know won't, well, then vote by mail-in ballot. I mean, you have to. We need you. We need every single vote. The only way we're going to win in NY27 is if we get every single vote. I hear sometimes people say that NY27 is not gerrymandered. Well, can someone please explain to me then why so many more Republicans live in NY27 than anywhere else? Now, it doesn't look gerrymandered because it doesn't have a weird shape, but there was a district originally created for a guy named Reynolds, Tom Reynolds. I guess, for some reason, that's the name, right? Yeah. Sorry. It's a long day as usual. Tom Reynolds was a congressman from this region, and he had some power and he had some influence, and he had influenced the creation of this district, so it was a safe seat, so he would never lose. Now, there are Democratic safe seats too that are small areas, and you're like, why does that area exist? Well, when Congress people are in Congress for a while, they fight for a district they like. And then Kathy Hochul won a special election because the district was a little bit better than it is today. And then it got cut up again to make it even easier for a Democrat to win. And then you had Chris Collins win. Now you have Chris Jacobs win, even though tens of thousands of Republicans and independents did not vote for Chris Collins and did not vote for Chris Jacobs. We're far outperforming expectations, but it's still a very difficult district to win. Can we win? Yes, but we need every single person to vote. We're this close. We don't got to go this far. We got to go this far. We don't got to go this far. We got to go this far. So what is my opponent doing right now? Well, he's filming a commercial today. He's in Leroy. I don't think he's ever been to Leroy in his life, but he was in Leroy today filming a commercial talking about at a pizza place, acting like he's a local. It's so hilarious. Sad? No, it's not hilarious. It's sad that we live in a country where people fall for it. Oh, he's a regular guy. He's just like me. He's pivoting to the center, and he's trying to act like he's trying to act like he's Nate McMurray, like he's been going to these places all his life. He hasn't. He knows nothing about this district. He doesn't care about these people. He's not one of us. And we need you to tell your neighbors and friends and family that he's not one of us. Some people on the line here. Hey, Lucy, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you being on. Alice is always on. Thank you, Alice, for always being on. I appreciate it. Thank you for doing that math for us, Alice. October 24th is the first day of early election, or early voting, rather. Nancy, thanks for being on. Nancy, you are a fighter. I appreciate everything you do. Samuel, thanks for coming on as well. So we got some folks on the line. We're going to talk to some more folks. Should we bring them up? Corin, can we bring them up or no? Give us 3, 2, 1. We're going to bring up Mary. Are you there, Mary?
Oh, yeah, I'm here, Nate.
Okay. Are we going to see your face or just your voice? Can the folks at home hear? Oh, there she is. Hey, Mary.
Hey.
There's Hunter. How are you? Hey, should I move
Do
over a
good.
little bit? There's definitely a Brady Bunch vibe here. Let me move over a little bit. Is this the right way to move over? Hopefully, I'm not moving into you guys. Let me see. Is that better or worse? Yeah, I moved the right way. No, I moved the wrong way. Sorry, this is why I could never be a weather broadcaster. Let me move this way. This is better. So I think we're good. Mary, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm here in the new place that I just moved into, so it's starting to feel like home. So that's good.
That's always a struggle. The first couple of days you move into something like that, and you got all your stuff in, and you're all settled.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't help you.
You were busy.
Sorry about that. But you were able to get some friends to help out or something, or did you do it all yourself?
Yeah. My boyfriend and my family helped, and I was able to borrow my parents' car.
It might.
True. I didn't want to take you away. You're doing good
You're
work.
very good. You're doing good work. You're always, especially nowadays. It seems like you really, I don't know. You seem like you really feel more comfortable than ever, and you really hit your stride. And I'm proud of the work you do, and I'm grateful for you. You've always been. I this is besides your own campaigns. This is the first campaign you ever worked on, or no?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just every day you become more and more of an asset to us, and I appreciate you so much.
Thanks.
Hunter, same goes for you. How are you doing, Hunter?
I'm doing great. Just got off a great call with around 40 of our volunteers here.
40?
Yeah, just about.
So there are people from all over the region that are making phone calls for us.
Phone calls, texts, postcards. They are engaged and they are ready to win on November 3rd.
I'm going to say to the folks at home, it's been very difficult to keep people excited for almost 3 years. So this is how it went with the campaign. In the early days, there was some excitement because people were, there was the blue wave talk all over the country, including here. So we started off, then people kind of forgot, and we worked hard. That was like the 40 days, 40 nights period where we were just wandering alone kind of across NY27. Then we started to build some support, and we had people come out to our events. They got more and more excited. This is like the smash up derby, demolition derby period. Then Chris Collins was indicted. Things got very, very intense very quick. Then we lost, and no one wanted to talk to me for about 6 or 7 months again. Then we slowly built up energy again. And I'll be honest with you, you guys are part of it. What was it like the night of the special election when we knew there was more votes out there, but the news was saying how terrible we were and how we got crushed? How were you guys feeling? I mean, that was an emotional roller coaster because we all knew how many votes were out there and how close it was going to be. But how did you guys feel personally?
It was frantic. We knew that there were X amount of absentee ballots still out in the field. We knew how many people had applied for. We knew that there was still a grace period if ballots were postmarked, that they could still be received by their Board of Elections. So it was a lot of, frantic math. And, like you said, it was an emotional roller coaster for us all.
Yeah, Mary, how was it for you?
For me, I guess it was
honest,
like,
it's okay.
Yeah. For me, it was upsetting that, we had worked so hard to turn out, to educate so many folks on this new way of voting, and that Jacob tried to call the elections when about half of the ballots hadn't been counted. That just felt like, deeply offensive as like a lifelong resident of NY27 and someone who helped people vote.
I'm so grateful for you to say that. I was offended by it too, and how quickly the media, and listen, we need the media. I am never going to say the media is bad. Do certain publications disappoint me? Yes. Do I wish we had more newspapers, not less? Yes. Do I think it's difficult to get our word or our name out there because of the fact we have so few resources in Western New York? Yes. But man, I couldn't believe how quickly some of the media fell in with the narrative that this was some landslide victory. And we would tell them, we have the statistics, we have the numbers. They didn't want to hear it. They just didn't want to talk about it. And I hope people learn from it this time. We're not going to figure this out on election night. And I'm afraid Trump's going to use the Jacobs playbook, or rather maybe Jacobs used the Trump playbook, and just try to declare victory because it discourages people from even counting the remaining votes. We're talking about it. And I'll tell you what, it was a major punch to our fundraising. I'm not going to lie. We're all grassroots. And when people know that their $5 or $10 or $15 goes a long way to helping, hey, buddy, my dog's here. Oh, don't do that. It goes a long way to help making a difference and making a change, they'll give. But if they think it's hopeless, they're not going to give. And almost a month, it appeared hopeless because the articles in the paper were about how we were crushed. And like we talked to some of the Board of Elections, even the people at the Board of Elections they were exhausted by it. And you guys remember I've been at this for such a long time, but I have to admit that period was probably the most difficult period in my entire political career because I was so hard to get people to listen, anybody, about how well we had done and how close it was going to be. So I'm glad to hear your thoughts about it as well. What do we do differently this time? How are we going to approach this differently? Hunter, your major job is to push out the vote again and to educate the public about what absentee ballots mean. Talk about it for a second.
So something that I discovered recently was that it seems that New York State is actually building a single place to apply for an absentee ballot online. They're launching their own portal. We're, of course, going to be driving folks towards that. But we're also, like you said earlier, we're going to be driving folks to, if they are able and they feel comfortable doing so, to vote early or vote in person on election day. We've seen the kind of games that the Trump administration has tried to play with the United States Postal Service, and we don't want to take any chances, of course. So we want to push out as many people to vote in whatever way they feel comfortable doing so. A lot of people don't feel comfortable about voting absentee, just as many people don't feel comfortable voting in person. So we want to make sure that we are connecting with the right people and getting them out to vote no matter what.
Yeah. That's the point. Again, it was difficult with the absentee ballot situation before the post office situation. So, am I worried about November 3rd? I am very worried. I am very worried about what this means for our country, what it means for our region. Listen, when President Obama said this is he said our democracy is at risk, he's not joking. He's not saying that just to scare you. It's at risk. I've been saying it for a long time. And, when I first started saying, look at what President Trump is doing, he's challenging reality itself. I want people to realize this is a desperate situation. Crisis comes from the Greek word for when a sick patient, is at that moment where decisions will determine life or death. So we're at that life or death moment for our democracy. This is a true crisis. That's why President Obama said the things he said. We need you to act. And so right now, what our recommendation is, and I'll say it again, if you can, vote in person 9 days early. November 3rd is the election date. 9 days beforehand, you can vote in person. If you can't, or your friends and family are not going to vote in person, remind them to apply for an absentee ballot right now, as soon as you can. Because if you don't, we're not going to have our ballots in time. Last time we lost so many ballots because people did not apply for their ballots on time, whether because of the Board of Elections or whether because of their own procrastination. So we need you to apply for the ballot right now if you can, and you're not going to be able to vote in person. Mary, your thoughts about the twilight of our democracy and the situation we're in, if you have any thoughts about that subject. You're always so well-spoken and articulate. How do you feel about the situation?
That's a lot of pressure. No,
well,
so
you can be folksy and goofy like me too. That's fine, but you are well-spoken and articulate.
Yes, I feel hopeful because I think a lot of people are engaged now, and especially as we're getting into the high season of elections, it's what everyone's focusing on. So we're gonna be at the front of people's minds. It's gonna be easier to talk to people about politics than it was maybe in early June when Democrats aren't really used to talking politics because we don't have primaries. Our fundraising has gone up I think like we all needed to take a break in July. We got to take a break. You got to take a little rest. And now, like, Hunter had a really great turnout for his volunteer call. Our grassroots fundraising numbers are up, and yeah, I think we're in a good spot going into November. I'm feeling hopeful.
Time is of the essence, though. Every day counts. And if you got, listen, many of you have given to our campaign. If you can give to our campaign, please do so. You're going to see soon, I think, how the Jacobs fundraise. They fundraise through corporate donations, through wealthy family connections. We don't, but we don't have to match them dollar for dollar. The small dollar amounts that you guys have been giving, they add up. I'm not going to, some people say, why isn't the Democratic Party helping us? Listen, they're not helping a lot of people. It's not like we're the only ones who don't get money from the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has lots of priorities. They have to hold seats all over the country. Yes, have we outperformed other races where they get millions of dollars? Yes. Is that a little bit bitter for me sometimes? Yes. But we don't have time to be bitter. We have to win. Mary, you're helping with fundraising now more than ever. What can you say about that? Number one, why we shouldn't be bitter, because we're in the same situation as many other campaigns are. And number two, how well we've done considering our donations come from regular people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, the decision you made to hold back on spending in the special was really wise, and it set us up so we already have a bit of a war chest. And, the fact that we're up against someone with pretty much unlimited amounts of, that he and his network have like unlimited amounts of money. That means that, we're up against something big, but we know, we've got our budget. We know what we have to spend on. We're being really judicious, because it is the people's money. And I think that when the stats came out last at the in the second quarter, that that we have many times more donations than Jacobs, and our average number of donations is like so much smaller. So the numbers show that we are the campaign that people are choosing with their dollars, that regular people are choosing.
It shows you also how broken our corrupt campaign system is. I mean, think about the corruption we're facing. We're facing a situation where this man rolls out of bed and has more money off the interest in his bank accounts than most of us will ever earn in our entire life. We have to face that. The family has more money. We have this idea in our culture that we're not a country that's based on class. And class is almost a bad word in our country. We don't like to talk about class. But people like my opponent, they're born with more money falling out of the sky than you'll ever have. And the argument they often use is, well, they're careful and they don't lose the money, and therefore it's from merit. It's not from merit. He never has to raise a pinky, and he'll be far richer than any of us ever will be. And he can actually make more mistakes than any of us ever could and still maintain a lifestyle that most of us could only dream about. And that translates over into this election. So he not only has a district that is designed for someone from his party to win, and this is why party politics like this is so dangerous. Beyond that, he has infinite wealth where he can do things like he did at that debate, where he can say that Black Lives Matter is a dangerous ideology, or he can say that President Trump is doing great leadership on the coronavirus. He can say these ridiculous things, and the difference between Republicans and Democrats is that Republicans feel they vote out of duty. We have to support our party, even if we don't like the candidate. Democrats are better in some ways because we have to feel good about the candidate, and we nitpick our candidates. And I think that makes our candidates stronger in a lot of ways. But this is not a time to nitpick. We need everybody on board. Hunter, I know can I talk about your political views for a second? Maybe you get upset. I don't have to.
Please do.
I think Hunter would call he was a Bernie supporter, right?
Oh, 100%.
And you got into politics because of Bernie, right?
Yeah, I mean, Bernie brought me in 2016 when I was 17 years old, and hearing his speech at the convention when he said that we should vote by acclamation to nominate Hillary Clinton as the nominee, however I felt about her both politically and personally, I still felt like it was my duty to go and work for her. So I did.
And I know that was probably hard for you, right? Because you put your heart and soul into Bernie's campaign.
Yeah, and dollars for that matter.
Yes, you have. By the way, you and I have gotten a serious argument arguments about politics. I think I'm a progressive, but I think you're even more progressive than I am. Is that fair to say?
I would say so.
But what do we disagree on? Sometimes I'm like, why are we fighting? It seems like we're on the same page with this. Is it just your leftover? Is it your young man angst, or what am I dealing with there?
It must be. It must be my my Zoomer tendencies, I guess.
I think you're a bit of a contrarian.
It's fun, but I think that where I place my politics are deeply rooted in class divides, and I think that there are reasonings behind why the world looks the way it is, and some people are very close to understanding where I come from, and it's not that I think of those people less. It's just that I think there's more education to be done. And that's not to say that
I'm with you. I'm with you on that, my friend. And Mary, I think you've educated me in a lot of issues, but I think it's hard for me to classify your political beliefs as well. I think you're definitely in a difference. You look at these issues much differently than I do. You come at them from a different approach than I do. A less traditional approach.
As a past elected official, you have to be a little cagey about your political views. But yeah, I think that, my, sorry, my political beliefs are rooted in that, everyone has a right to live. Everyone's got a right to healthcare. Everyone's got the right to a place to live, and just be. And some of the ways that we're disempowered, that we don't know a lot of conflict resolution. Those are the things that, sort of like empowering things and getting them back localized. That's what I'm really interested in.
So you believe that all people have value and that human rights and human dignity should not be ignored for any person.
Radical.
Right. Yeah. And I love that about you. And I think it's something that's the way you talk about it. Maybe you don't want to talk about it today, but maybe in the future we can talk about it. Can be very inspiring, Mary. So look at Cindy Appleton's watching. Can I get a round of applause for Cindy Appleton? Cindy, we all love you. We do. And oh my gosh, the incredible, the warrior, the veteran, the super volunteer, the amazing William Fine is watching. Can I get a round of applause for William Fine?
And Mr. Fine's on our grassroots leadership team, right?
Is he? I don't know, but I know that.
I think so.
Listen, Mr. Fine was not one of my original supporters. I met him at an event in Canandaigua once, a long time ago, and he came up to me, and he had some strong political beliefs, and he let me know. And I said, Mr. Fine, I didn't know his name, but I was like, I'm with you on those beliefs. What do you think I stand for? I think Mr. Fine can remember back when I first started in politics, and Cindy Appleton can certainly remember this. When I first started in politics, I always tell this because it's important to me, but when I grew up very humbly, right? You guys know this. I've talked about it with you a million times. But that kind of shapes my political views and what's important to me. I want to help people that are from families like the family I grew up in, or like my family today. But for a long time, being a child that was one of 7 from a widow was kind of an embarrassment, especially in the legal world where I was with families that were very, very wealthy and the children of families that were very, very wealthy. And, these are the type of people, if you know anything about British culture, that have 2 last names. I mean, these are people like when I was working at Allen and Overy, half my colleagues were these people that were literally royalty. They were people that had from royal backgrounds. And I was this young man from North Tonawanda. And so I kind of created I didn't fake who I was, but I tried to create a persona that I could fit in that culture. And because I look the way I do, I mean, I'm white, right? So one of the benefits of that is as a white male, I was able to kind of hide some of the rough edges about who I was and my background. And it was a background that I'm ashamed to say today I was kind of ashamed of. And I brought that with me into politics as well. I thought I needed to look a certain way. And if you go back and look at those old pictures of me from when I first started in politics, and Cindy Appleton will remember, I don't know who that guy was. I don't know who he was. I used to have slicked hair, and my hair looked dark because it was so full of gel. and I would wear like these suits that were like overly tailored, and I wasn't really sure of who I was. And I hate to say that because it's embarrassing to say, but 3 years of knocking doors, getting kicked in the grass, kicked in the mud, and struggling, I kind of learned who I was as a person again and as a politician. And I don't know why I bring all that up. Oh, I know why. Because if I was William Fine and 3 years ago I met me, I would have looked at me like, who the heck is this guy too? And, but I think over the last 3 years, Bill and I have become close friends. And Bill has become such an incredible volunteer. And just, he is the heart of this type of campaign, of our campaign. And I'm so proud of our campaign because our campaign is really not about me. It's about us. And anybody who's been part of this campaign knows that. I am the person whose name's on the signs, but I represent so many people who have put in thousands of hours. And I'll tell you what, nobody outworks Team McMurray. Nobody outworks Team McMurray, and that includes Hunter, that includes Mary, that includes everybody that's part of this team. And I'm grateful to all of you, including you, Mr. Fine.
You said thousands of hours. I just want to bring up, I did the math. Our volunteers spent 1,500 hours on the phones in 2 months.
In 2 months?
Yes.
And we're going to try to break that this time. And that when we say that, it doesn't mean you need to make 1,500. Every bit helps. This is a big.
I wouldn't mind if they did.
And you and I. Listen. I will spend close to 500 hours on the phone before the end of the election. Close to 500 hours. If everybody could do 2 or 3 hours that listens to this or hears my voice, that's all we need. If you can do more, great. But if everybody starts with that, we'll get there. And no matter what, people always say, how come you don't? What I always hear, and I want to hear Mary's thoughts about this as well. We always hear, well, why don't you guys do this or do that? Or how come you didn't spend more money on commercials? Or I always tell the story about when I first started, or people coming into our office and saying, why don't you guys have better computers? I'm like, geez, this is not the Apple store. I don't know what you wanted to see when you came in here. We're doing this. This is from us. Like, there's nobody helping. We're completely 100% grassroots. We haven't taken corporate money or anything else. So when my pushback has become, I've encouraged my team, all of them, is when people say, why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z, is to say, ask them to make some phone calls. Ask them to do a fundraiser. Because when people get involved, they see how difficult it can be and what this really takes. And it's impossible for one person to do this the way we're doing it, which is the right way, without the help of thousands of people. And Mary, can you talk about that for a second?
About, so I think like all the volunteers that we have, we have a really strong field program, but we also have a really great team of grassroots activists that are being led by Sandy Chelnoff, Cindy Fleischer, and Linda Van Harsel, that are taken, these folks who are really energized about, what's happening in NY27, that we actually have a chance in an election, right, as a Democrat. And they're, taking charge, raising money, doing events, passing along the word, right? Like, we have a really great core of people who know who you are and people who are supportive of your candidacy, but we also want to, we want to widen that circle. So they've kind of created like a modern day phone chain. And I think that, that's the way that, we can incorporate people in. People are saying, oh, why aren't you doing that? Like, hey, join our, join this group, make some calls, like join our team. I think that's a really generative way to do it. So if they want to do that,
how do they get a hold of them? They go, what's the website again? Does anybody have that website offhand? GR27. Go ahead.
GRNY27, I'm pretty sure.
Listen, GRNY27, sign up for that. But honestly, sign up with Hunter at votemcmurray.com to do phone calls. That's the key. That's the most important thing we could do. But also, absolutely support Cindy and Sandy. They're fantastic people. And man, I always say this, we did this independently, guys. We did this with the help of the grassroots Rural Democratic Network that we in part created, but also built off the hard work of people like Cindy Appleton. And I thank you, Cindy, for doing that.
Yeah.
Everyone watching, tell your friends to give 27 for 27 or 2020 for Nate in 2020. Let's do this. Cindy, you don't understand how much you've meant to me for the last 2 years. You are such Yeah, listen, in some ways I feel like you've been my guardian angel through a lot of this, Cindy. I hope you know that. I say it to you all the time, but I hope you know it. Hey, Chris, can I tell your story? I don't want to embarrass you. Chris Ausler's on the line. Can I tell your story? I won't go into detail too much, but you're such a great guy, and I want people to know that there's this type of people out there that support us and are part of our team. If you don't want me to, it's fine. Gretchen, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Jan, thanks for watching. Always, thank you so much for being part of this, and thank you for the donations you guys are giving us. Thank you for the support. Thank you for getting involved. Chris, I'll wait till you get back to me before I say anything. We'll wrap it up soon, but I love to talk to the people out there about you a little bit because, man, I love your whole family. You're great people. Hunter, is there anything else you want to share to the people at home?
You can get involved super easily. Like Nate said, email me, Hunter, HUNTER, @votemcmurray.com. You can also check us out online at Mobilize. That's mobilize.us/McMurray for Congress. We're going to be publishing all of our phone banking events for next week on there. You'll see some postcard events on there, some texting trainings, all sorts of ways to get involved directly to help us contact voters, make sure that we're turning out everybody that we need to. You can check that all out on mobilize.us/McMurray for Congress.
Hunter, get it up on social media too, people, so people can see. Get a posting up.
Of course.
All right, my man. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about the Democratic Convention. And I'm sorry I'm drinking a Coca-Cola here, but it is hot where I'm sitting. These lights are on me. It's hot and I'm thirsty, so I apologize. I should have a cup or something so I can hide what I'm drinking. Go ahead, Mary, your thoughts about the convention. Give me your best Siskel and Ebert. Are you guys even young enough to remember Siskel and Ebert? You're not?
Sorry.
You're talking to a
you don't remember
Zoomer right
Siskel and
now,
Ebert at all? Okay, can I go on a tangent on this for a second? So there was this television show when I was a child that was on until I was a full-grown man with children. It was called Siskel and Ebert. And Siskel and Ebert are the guys who invented this for movies. And you guys don't even watch movies anymore, and we're not going to have movie theaters anymore. How sad. But thumbs up, or everybody out there, what am I going to say next? Thumbs down. That's how they did them. They did. Yeah, Austin's laughing. Thumbs up, thumbs down. That's how they reviewed movies. And sometimes they would say, "You ever heard this phrase?" I hope. But those who are at home watching, believe it or not, and I'm not. Listen, I sound like an old man. I apologize. But some of the young people, they don't know these phrases. 2 thumbs up. Have you guys heard this?
What's that one? Huh?
2 thumbs up. It comes from Roger Ebert and Siskel and Gene Siskel of the okay. So they used to watch movies and they would give it 2 thumbs up. And if I could tell you, Roger Ebert is probably one of the greatest writers ever. He's an incredible writer. He did movie reviews. This is total nerd stuff. I collect his movie reviews. I love him. I've also bought all his books. He's got a great book. I think it's called My Life. I don't know. I used to love Roger Ebert. You're mocking me behind the camera. Roger Ebert the show was fantastic. I didn't always agree with him, but it kind of brought art. It was popularized art criticism and brought it into our houses. And I loved Roger Ebert. Will you guys do me a favor and look him up after this is over? Read about Roger Ebert. Read some of his reviews. So you guys remember the movie Transformers?
Yes.
Is that the one with the cars that did?
Before Roger Ebert died, he wrote a review about Transformers. It's so great. He said, imagine, his lines he wrote was just sticking in my head, but he had one that said, imagine throwing some pots and pans down the stairs and cueing the chorus of hell. And that's the movie Transformers. Oh, Alice said she went to journalism school to be a film club. Wow. Oh, look at Cindy Appleton knows best film reviewers ever. They were fantastic. The show was great. They used to get in heated arguments about movies. which made it fun. Yeah. Anyway, why did I bring them up?
Because you're
DNC.
reviewing the DNC.
I want you guys to review the DNC. Siskel and Ebert are before me. What did you think?
Probably not 2 thumbs up, but I give it 1 thumb. I give it 1 thumb up. I think my favorite speaker was probably Deb Haaland of New Mexico. And yeah, she had a short speech, but I thought it was really to the point, really, clear about what we need to do.
Yep. So by the way, Mary, that's a take I did not expect, but I like it. It's the first time I've ever heard her say that, but I like it. Go ahead, Mary. Go ahead, Hunter. What do you think?
I really liked having a speaker on the national stage for once that was competent, that could speak in complete sentences. And that's something we haven't had in 4 years. And I was eternally grateful to see what the next generation of leadership is going to look like. That being said, I thought there were a few snubs in there that I didn't like. For example, giving people like AOC 90 seconds only to speak. When they talk so much about leading the next generation of democratic leadership, but yet they treat the next generation of democratic leadership like that. But then meanwhile, give people like John Kasich, people like Michael Bloomberg, people like that, double or triple the time to speak. That's not something I can wholeheartedly agree with. That being said, I liked how they did the keynote this year, where they split it up between, the rising talent of the Democratic Party. I actually had the pleasure of meeting and working with one of those speakers, Malcolm Kenyatta, who is in the PA. I believe they call it the House. It's one of their legislative bodies. He is a great community leader in Philadelphia, and his speech was fantastic.
Mm.
You want my take, or are we going to move on from this?
Please.
Okay. Well, first, you want my AOC story? I only have one AOC story. You want to hear my AOC story?
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Well, there was some hesitation there, but I'll say it anyway. When I almost won, I was invited to Washington. Now, anyone who was part of the campaign in 2018 knows I absolutely did not want to go. But they invited people that were much farther back than we were. So we asked, can we go? Because people that were down by higher percentage points were invited. And they said, yeah, if you want to go, you should probably be here because there's a chance you might win if there's a recount. And originally, the Democratic Party was like, we're going to pay for your recount. Obviously, that did not happen. So I went down there. I did not want to go. I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, let's stay. Nothing I wanted to do more than stay in Western New York, keep fighting, making sure every ballot was counted. You can imagine how nervous I was, but I went. And they have these get-togethers. And some of the get-togethers, like, geez, this is going to be actually kind of fun to people to hear maybe. I'll tell. Some of the get-togethers are downright disgusting. I'm not going to lie. They're horrible. But some of them are great. And some of the training sessions were great. So, I'll tell you one story that was troubling is I used to work for Samsung. Can I tell this? Yeah, I'm going to tell this. I used to work for Samsung, right? So there's this guy at Samsung that was about my age and an up-and-coming executive type. And there was a bit of a rivalry there between the two of us. And I liked him, though. And that's probably the part of the problem is I liked him too much. But, like, I hadn't seen him for years. And then the Democratic Party had this get-together at Samsung's headquarters. And I had forgotten where Samsung headquarters was in Washington, D.C. So someone sighed, is this boring? If it's boring, just cut me off. I'll change it. So I walked to this event at Samsung. I didn't even know it was at Samsung. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the next event. I was super tired. And I was on the phone constantly trying to see what was happening back in Buffalo. So I go to the Samsung headquarters, and it's full of new congressional people because part of the orientation is to go to Samsung for some reason. I thought they may have just been using the space. And I was like, wait a second, I know this building. So I go inside, and there I see some of the leadership from Washington And we're all, we're going through this line, and they're giving away grab bags from Samsung. The little giveaways. I know everyone's nervous as I tell this story, but I'm almost there. So I get to the desk, and there is some of the leadership. I won't say names. People that we all know, people that we see on television. And there is my old rival from Samsung giving out goodie bags to new Congress people, and they're ravenously taking them like he's the king of the world. And I get in line, and I looked at him. I said, "I don't want your bag." And he looks at me. He's like, "What the heck are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm about to go to Congress." He's like, "Come talk to me in the back." I said, "What?" I said, "What the heck are you doing here? Since when do you run Washington, D.C.?" How do you like that story? That's the end of the story.
I love the inside baseball.
It was horrific. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It was like a nightmare of some sort. I was questioning everything. So I left the building, and I went to the next meeting, and then one more. So my AOC story. So they had to get together at this restaurant, and it was very young adult. It was just like, you think it's DC, so it's going to be different. It was just like any like young adult mixer at like a law firm for like, you know what I mean? It was very similar. And I was like, oh boy, I've been to these things before. And I was in the outskirts of it because I wasn't like, everyone was jockeying for position, pulling a Trump, trying to push others out of the way and getting, you know what I mean? Trying to get closer to Nancy Pelosi or whatever. And I was on the outskirts, and I was just like trying to get through it, to be honest with you, because I was so worried about what's happening back in Buffalo. And who else was on the outskirts? Well, I saw there was some buzz next to me, and a lot of people were talking. It was AOC. And I said, I got to say hi, at least say hi to her. So I said hi to her. Super down to earth, like the most down to earth person there. And like, I don't know her. And some people will say to me online, if you supported healthcare for all, maybe you get support from AOC. I'm like, guys, I've been supporting healthcare for all since the first day I was, ever in politics. It's not that simple. I think she's got a lot on her mind or whatever. So, but I went up to her and I said hi, and I introduced myself, and she was very polite, super down to earth, super nice. And then I took the infamous photograph that's been used on millions and millions of advertisements by the Republican Party. But that's the extent of my interaction with her. But I always tell people, listen, I met her, and she was down to earth. And very few people that I met that week were down to earth, and she's incredibly down to earth. Is that story too much for y'all? Sorry, I wanted to share.
It's so good to
I
hear.
love it. I love it. It's exactly like, you hear all the stories about the people that put on a public face and a private face, and it's good to hear that we still have people that aren't fake.
Oh, back to the someone's asking about the DNC. I'm sorry to cut you off, Hunter. So I love the convention. I thought the convention, I don't think they should go back to the old style convention. I think the old style convention was so dated and silly. Don't you agree with that, or no, guys? What do you think?
I think a healthy medium could be found between the two. There were some aspects, like the end of the first night, where they had the I don't know if you've ever watched any of the Tim and Eric show before, but they had the outro music being played, and the effects of it were just, it didn't match up with the gravity of the moment there. It was always nice to see, the balloons come down after the convention. And I think one of the most powerful things for me always was the roll call. Going around. It was
more powerful now, though, wasn't it?
I agree that I liked this style a lot. But just something that will always be stricken into my head from 2016 was Bernie Sanders' brother, Larry, giving the designating from the Democrats abroad. For Bernie Sanders. That was one of the most powerful and emotional moments in politics that I've ever experienced. And being able to cut between the two, like television quality stuff, is great. I do like the idea of the Zoom conference. That being said, I have spent probably 6 hours a day on Zoom since March 15th, and I'm kind of tired of it.
How about you? Do you think it was a bad format, or what do you think, Mary? I loved it, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was agile. maybe, it can be hard to engage people sometimes, but I think that it was way more environmentally friendly, right? Like no
Way more.
hotels, no cars, no, and I think that,
And just yeah, I'm sorry.
we're going to have to like, I think now that people are more used to it, like maybe this is going to become more normal even as COVID lifts.
So my mind was racing the whole time, thinking all the cool stuff you could do is like you could like imagine doing like one speaker from um, Niagara Falls, and once in iconic places across America that we like with my creative mind was rushing or racing as I watched it. The first night I thought, oh no, I'll be honest with you, the first couple of hours, like the first 30 minutes, I was like, this is terrible. And over the course of 4 days, I started to believe in it more and more. I thought that Michelle Obama and Bernie were fantastic the first night. I thought that what was his name, John Meacham, last night was great, underrated, not talked about a lot. The historian, fantastic. I thought that Biden was just like, I think Biden is kind of fine of who he is, kind of like I was talking about earlier. As a politician, you have to find out who you are, and you're like, well, he's been in politics forever. Yep, he has, but I think for the last couple of years, he kind of thought he had to be Barack Obama. And it's almost impossible to be Barack Obama. He's so darn smooth and well-spoken. And I saw more like the guy I saw in person last night, who was charming and folksy and just a nice man. And I hate to say this, part of me thinks we kind of need that right now. We just need a nice person. And to see his grandchildren talk and to see about his family, I was so moved by it. Kamala Harris, I thought part of having lived overseas for such a long time, part of the job of these leaders is to be diplomat number one for our country, especially the vice president. And to see that woman, powerful woman on stage talking about her mother and her immigrant background, man, it was, one of the things that's eye-opening for me as a white male who sometimes always sees things through my own myopic viewpoint. I try, but it's hard because I'm born into this body and I see things through that lens. But having children who are of mixed race has really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And one of the things that's opened my eyes to is representation, mostly in movies. Like my son, I shouldn't talk about my children maybe this openly, but I'm going to. But my son, Moses, you guys know Moses well, right? But Moses is, man, the characters, like I would watch those, like the superhero movies with him, and I resonate with Captain America, right? I want to look at Captain America and talk about Captain America or Thor. He wants to talk about Black Panther. He wants to talk about, he loves the Rocky movies. He loves the Michael B. Jordan Rocky movies. And I think he's looking for representation that maybe I never looked for and I never appreciated. And I think watching his face, watch Kamala Harris, he didn't express it to me, but I could see the pride in him. And I'm going to get emotional talking about it, but it's awesome. I think it was good for our country. Go ahead, Mary. You got anything to say about it?
Yeah, no, one thing I really appreciate about you as a candidate is how like open you are about like your journey and like this kind of like where you're at and like realizing things. Because I think that, like what you were saying earlier about finding who you are as a candidate and now sort of like, learning about your whiteness and stuff. Like I really appreciate that you show that process, because I think that makes you a lot more accessible to people, right? Like we want people that we can resonate with to be in office. So yeah, thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing with us.
Thanks for saying that. Well, I mean, I just think it's important. I think about Kamala as a symbol of our nation to the world. In that respect alone, I just think it's fantastic. Yeah. And I'm just so proud of the Democratic Party right now. And I know it has flaws. I know we could do just to make it. I'm sorry to get so emotional with all that, but to take it down a notch and make it a little more light. Man, what's her name? Louis something Dreyfus. I always forget her name. What's her name? Oh, look at this guy with the old school Seinfeld reference. Austin's
a 90-year-old in a 23-year-old's body.
Well, Seinfeld's the best, but Julie Louise Dreyfus. I never watched Veep. You did, I guess. Yeah, Austin only watches like You know.
Austin still got the tube with like the channel dial on it.
No, Austin. We know what Austin's into. Anime. Okay. Anyway. I had to say it. No, Julie Louise Dreyfus. Sorry, Austin. Julie Louise Dreyfus was hilarious. I thought she was great. I thought she made of something that was very somber for about 2 days. It lightened it up a bit. And how about the little boy that had the stuttering problem? I thought that was beautiful. It was symbolic of our country, how we feel right now, that we're all a little bit vulnerable, but we're going to overcome this together. I loved it. No, guys, was I just an easy mark for all this stuff? I thought it was fantastic.
I don't think you're an easy mark at all. I mean, I think it's really easy to compare, the speakers list that we had this week.
Oh, yeah.
The speakers list that the Republicans have next week. They have
talk about it. Who's up?
They have the Covington High School kid that just won all of his defamation suits against all of the lying fake news media.
How did he win? How did he win a defamation suit? I don't get
it. Because he was a minor. That's probably the only reason why. In addition to that, I mean, they have the.
Look, I don't care. Listen, I'm going to say it, and I said it at the time. He's a minor, and minors are not totally responsible for their actions. We know that. But if my son had done what he had done, I don't care how he was provoked. I would have took my son aside and said, that was wrong. You should not act like that. And the fact that it was indulged and it's being indulged is horrible. And I'm not afraid to say it. It's horrible. He was taunting that senior citizen. It was horrible. I don't care what anybody says. Does he deserve to have his life ruined? No. I did stuff terrible when I was a kid. I'm glad it's not on national television, so I have some empathy for the young man. The problem is they're celebrating it.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of provocation, you also have the two gun-toting white folks from their mansion also speaking at the RNC next week. Pretty sure Steve Bannon is also still on the speakers list, reporting in live from the ankle bracelet factory.
He's still on the speakers list?
As of this morning, he was still on the speakers list.
Who's that young woman who always harasses me online? Don't say her name. I wonder how she feels having posed with Steve Bannon with those pictures. I mean, can you imagine being part of a party that celebrated Chris Collins and Steve Bannon and had all these young people on that campaign and telling them they're your role models? How terrible is that?
Yeah.
I feel sorry for those kids. I feel sorry for those kids who worked on had brought Steve Bannon to Western New York and was there with him and were fighting for Chris Collins. Holy cow. Anyway, who else is on the list? Let me hear the crazy couple from St. Louis who threatened people with a machine gun. Come on, are we serious?
They're not bringing out their best. And speaking of the Republicans, the most interesting part of, I like to think of myself as like very linked into what's going in online. And the Republicans
you're too LinkedIn,
these,
man. Unplug. Yeah, go ahead and listen.
Hope my mom's watching.
You got Fortnite brain.
Oh God, that hurt me. The Republicans were like putting out billboards outside of where the DNC was supposed to be held and kept posting online like, look at what we're doing outside the DNC. I'm like, it's virtual, right? Like they think that they always get a one-up on us.
Well, listen, I get that. Listen, I have some of that in me. I wish I didn't. But like when my opponent currently was having a rally, remember I was going to go and I had my megaphone and stuff, and I was called and said, you will absolutely not go to that. Do you remember that or no? Were you guys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were headed out there. We were going to troll his. I won't do that. I realize how stupid it was, but yeah, you would think that people who have more discipline, who've been in politics their whole life, a whole national party, wouldn't try to troll. They would just try to advocate for what they care about. Go ahead. Who else is on the list? I'm out of curiosity. This is fun for me to listen to.
There's that doctor that Trump retweeted about coronavirus. Something about demons and I don't want to get into
the demon sperm doctor. We can say it. I mean, that's what the thing is. Do you know that my brother lives 2 miles away from her clinic, and he said that it's so funny to him that it's not in the best part of Houston, and he has friends and family who are Republicans, and he says, if you believe in her so much, why don't you go to her clinic? And they won't dare to go.
Yeah.
It's like they have this dual reality they're living in. They would never dare send their children there for help or for resources, but we're going to put her on the national stage because she says hydroxychloroquine cures.
Well, it's like it's the old meme of like doing X to own the libs, right? Like I will do this because it makes the Democrats mad, and I will project it as if I'm serious about it. But in reality, like I know I'm lying. It's like a two-faced mentality that is literally leading our nation right now and is leading us directly into fascism for no other reason because it makes, liberals on Twitter and Facebook angry.
We have an alternative reality. This book, Twilight of Democracy. It's written by a woman who is a conservative. She's a Thatcherite. I don't agree with her political philosophy, but man, it is scaring me with its analysis of what's happening in Hungary, what's happening in Poland, and now what's happening in the United States, where people are more willing to believe a fantasy, more willing to believe an alternative reality. And the point is to believe the alternative reality. The point isn't to prove it's right. The point is to like 1984. That's why I posted that this morning. It's to look at it's boldly stating an alternative reality. It's as if Austin over here would boldly look at me and say, I don't like anime. It's a lie. He knows it's a lie.
We're bullying Austin too much tonight.
I'm sorry, Austin. No, but you understand what I'm saying? It's like it's a bravado in the fact that they refuse to recognize reality.
Yeah.
It's like I don't care what you think. I have people online every day telling me that these QAnon theories are real. I'm like, if you really believe this was happening, why aren't you taking more action? If I believe those, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Trump gave them actually a decent amount of credit by not discrediting them in a recent press conference. He was actually directly asked about QAnon, to which he replied, they're doing great things, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, these are people that literally shot up a pizza restaurant in DC because they thought they were holding children in the basement.
And here's the thing is, and this is to Mary, you can talk to this maybe. These are Trump and his staff openly separated children from their parents and put them in cages. And we're going to talk about children's life at risk, but we're not going to talk about reality where children's life really are at risk. I mean, or don't those children matter? Go ahead, Mary, if you have any thoughts on that.
Right. I think like even a couple weeks ago, there was like a day of awareness against human trafficking. And I saw a lot of conservative people that I follow, like really joining in, but not following other tendrils. So I think that, it's about who people really recognize as like having human worth. I think that, if you don't think that, then, if you're not that as concerned about an immigrant child, then I think like down to it, it's probably deeply that like, we hold these racist beliefs where immigrant people coming from the global South don't have that same human worth as like a white child, like from our neighborhoods. Yeah.
It's like we're more, listen, sexual abuse and sexual trauma, it's clearly a problem. Jeffrey Epstein there are bits and pieces of truth to all this stuff, right? But what's not true is the way it's packaged and the way it's spun. And what's also horrible is that, like you said, Mary, we devalue certain lives without limit. And we don't look at suffering the same.
Mm-hmm. And children are definitely used as like a piece of propaganda too, that it's really easy to be worried about a child, right? But when you're like looking at like really systemic structural issues.
I mean, a reporter asked the president of the United States this week Do you believe, or what are your feelings about a group of people that believe in a conspiracy that Satanists are engaged in child trafficking and cannibalism on a global level? And his answer was, "I like them because they like me." I mean,
they're patriots. He
what
called them
happened to
patriots.
what happened to our country? Look, there's a legitimate chance that Chris Jacobs, who thinks that a 75-year-old man was a member of Antifa, and some crazy woman from the South who believes in QAnon are going to be in Congress, and I won't. That's what we're heading
There's a
into
couple
right
of
now.
QAnon people on the ballot.
I know, it's terrifying. Terrifying.
Yeah.
I think, by the way, I think this is an issue that we don't want to talk about because it's so weird. And if you listen to what happened in Smolensk in Russia with you guys know about this story at all? About what happened in Poland and with the aircraft conspiracy?
No.
Okay, so we can learn a lot from this, from what's happening in our country. So Poland was becoming a westernized democracy, right? And there was a situation where a aircraft full of all the leadership of Poland, the president, and all the way down, it crashed in Smolensk. Now, Smolensk is a place in Russia that's famous for hundreds of Polish officers and soldiers were slaughtered by the Russians in Smolensk. So the Russians were having this meeting with the Poles, this commemoration of that event, and the president of Poland was doing a major kickoff for his campaign from Smolensk. And I might be saying the name wrong of the city. I apologize. I don't speak Russian. So they landed, and it was rough. It was foggy, and the pilots didn't want to land. And the president said, "We need to land. I need to be there for this photo op." And they crashed, and everybody on board died. All of the government, basically the entire government of Poland. Now, they died in the exact spot where this horrible tragedy had occurred before. The president's twin brother immediately said, "This is a conspiracy." And they did a full research of it, and they said, no, it was a plane crash. There is no conspiracy. But the Polish society broke down into two parts. One was the Law and Order Party, which is the party of this twin brother, and one was the party of liberalized normal democracy, science, and reason. And the society is split. But the Law and Order Party won the election, and they won the election based on this insane, frankly, conspiracy theory that involved everyone from George Soros on down that became more and more elaborate by the day, which has now become dogma in Poland. And the reason why this Law and Order Party is able to perpetuate this myth and all of part of it is to do with fear of immigration, even though there's very low immigration in Poland, is because it's become a symbol of loyalty about whether or not you believe in the conspiracy. And those who do not believe in the conspiracy, no matter how ridiculous it gets, are considered outsiders. And even though Law and Order has a small fraction of the majority in Poland, they have been able to use that small fraction of the majority to change the law, to steal elections, and destroy democracy. Do you understand the parallels we're facing here in the United States right now?
Oh, it sounds like an exact carbon copy.
The same, like this woman is writing this book I'm reading. She's like, look, there's people I used to go to dinner with that are art critics that were intelligent who now come to my house and tell me I'm horrible and record my conversations because I don't believe in the big lie. And I just think, listen, I'm sorry to talk to you guys for over an hour tonight. You got to see your family. I'll let you go. But man, I think we're in a tough spot. Can we do this again soon?
Please.
I care about you guys. I do care about you, Austin. Do not share your same tastes in entertainment and whatnot. Sorry. I'm only kidding with him. I'm only kidding with him because he gets annoyed by it. This guy is a good boy. He's a good young man. He does everything right. And you guys are good, and you're going to do good, and we're going to win this election, and we're going to keep fighting. We got 10 weeks to go. Thanks for spending some time with me online and to do this live. I'm sorry to keep you on so long. Any last words?
Hunter at votemcmurray.com or votemcmurray.com/volunteer to get involved with us. Thanks for having me on.
Mary?
Yeah, every little bit helps to give, even just this, even just taking, the price of a coffee, that all adds up. And yeah, we're a grassroots movement, and that's really great to be a part of. Yeah, thanks for having us on, Nate.
Who's One Punch Man?
Oh, One Punch Man is a great anime. I recommend it to everybody. It's about this guy that just beats all his people in one punch, and he gets really tired of winning all his fights in one punch. Austin would love it.
Cindy says she's with you. Okay, good. More people are with you than you guys. Thanks for watching for over an hour. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.